Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Key Time Sports. It's Key Time coming back to talk about week 7 of the NFL season. There was a lot to unpack in week 7. Last night, at the commencement of week 7, we had two Monday night football games, one between the Baltimore Ravens and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Arizona Cardinals, and they both came down to the final second. So I am going to get into all of that right now. The first game of week 7 transpired in New Orleans. The Denver Broncos versus the New Orleans Saints. Now, I looked at the entirety of this game, and it really wasn't much to take away from the New Orleans side of things. We know that Derek Carr is out for his injury. Spencer Rattler, 25 or 35, 172 yards, zero touchdowns and zero interceptions. They really didn't have a run game at all. They only had 97 yards running. Alvin Kamara, the Broncos defense kept Alvin Kamara in check the whole game. He only had 10 yards rushing. And also, one thing about the Broncos that I like, and I said this before the season started, I said the Broncos can easily win 10 games. I said most of the games that they are going to be in, they are going to be underdogs. There are a couple of them that they will be favorites. Now, most of their wins, with the exception of one, no, with the exception of two, have come in enemy territory where they were massive underdogs. Now, Bo Nix, I like what I'm seeing from him. Another efficient game, 16 of 26, 164 yards, zero touchdowns, zero interceptions, but he didn't have to throw any touchdowns because the running game and the defense put up touchdowns in the game, and that is why this was a blowout. Now, I am going to give y'all a couple of stats that y'all can keep in y'all Rolodex when it comes to this game. Third down percentage in this game, excuse me, not third down percentage, but third down efficiency in this game for the Denver Broncos was 4 of 11, and for the Saints, third down efficiency was 5 of 17. So the defense for the Saints, even though people have labeled that defense as the number one red zone defense, it didn't look like it Thursday night. And the number 2 ranked defense, the Denver Broncos, it certainly looked like that Thursday night. The Denver Broncos, they stopped the Saints in their tracks, and the Saints, after starting off 2-0, they've lost 5 straight. Now, their season is hanging by a thread. They are at a crossroads. Are they going to be able to get back into playoff contention? Or will they just chop this up to a lost season? I believe that they just need to chop this up to a lost season because they're not going to get anywhere. And especially starting a second year guy with no experience in Spencer Rattler, it's not going to turn out great for the New Orleans Saints. So, congratulations to the Denver Broncos on going into New Orleans and getting a win. It's hard to get wins in the NFL. No matter how good or how bad the team is, it's hard to get wins in the NFL. So congratulations to the Denver Broncos. The next game I'm going to talk about, New England Patriots and Jacksonville Jaguars. Finally, the Jaguars get back to their winning ways after 3 weeks of subpar performances. Trevor Lawrence, he had an efficient day. 15 of 20, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Now, they had about 4 touchdowns. They had 2 touchdowns come from special teams. 1 touchdown come from Trevor Lawrence, and the other touchdown came from the defense. So the Jaguars, they were pretty much clicking on all cylinders against the Patriots, which is no surprise to me because the Patriots, they are one of the doormats of the NFL. They are. So what the Jaguars did, they did what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to win this game, and that's exactly what they did. Now, can they go on a winning streak? I heard that after the game, Derek Peterson, he was relieved that they won this game because over the past month and a half, it has been tough throughout the Jaguars organization. You done paid Trevor Lawrence 5 years, $275 million. He hasn't really played up to the standard that contract shows. And plus, as far as running ability for the Jaguars, the first time in about a month that they've cracked over 100 yards. Now, as far as for the New England Patriots, there's something that the head coach for the New England Patriots said. Gerard Mayo, he said that the team is soft, but there's one thing that I have a little problem with that. You are the head coach. You are supposed to put the best roster and have this team assembled to the best of their ability. And you coming out in the press conference room up to the podium and saying that the team is soft, we already know that you were not going to be good this year. So get ready, and in 2 or 3 years, you should be able to be a force to be reckoned with. So as far as the Patriots, one thing I got to say about Drake May, the Patriots, they have their quarterback for the foreseeable future. Drake May is very efficient. He was very efficient against the Texans and the Jaguars. Against the Jaguars, he was 26 of 37, 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So even though that this is a year of growing pains for the new coaching regime with the New England Patriots, you still have Drake May. You can take some success away from him. Now, with the New England Patriots, they have a tough road, and I don't see them winning too many more games this year. Even if they do win 1 or 2 more games this year, it is going to be a surprise. Now, which leads into my next game, the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I thought Atlanta, they were going to control this game from start to finish, but the Seattle Seahawks had different ideas. One thing about it is Geno Smith, he had an efficient day, 18 of 28, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. One thing I got to say is even on their running ability, when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks, they had over 100 yards rushing on the ground. Kenneth Walker, their bell cow, had 69 yards rushing. So one thing about that, and plus the defense had 3 turnovers. The Seattle defense had 3 turnovers. The Atlanta Falcons offense, Kirk Cousins, 24 of 35, 232 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He threw 2 interceptions. The Falcons offense, during the 3-game winning streak, they started out fast. In this game versus the Seattle Seahawks, they didn't start out fast. They did not generate a first down until the second quarter. It was always in the first quarter, they had multiple 3-and-outs, and that's what hurt them. So Seattle Seahawks, this is their first win in the last 4 games. They stopped the losing streak. Seattle Seahawks, they could be a wild card team when we get later on in the season, but as of right now, I still have them as a team on the outside looking in. The next game I want to talk about is the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, we all know that you all are a dumpster fire. You're not going to amount to anything this season. Mason Rudolph is another it is another wash away quarterback. 25 of 40, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The Tennessee rushing game with Tony Pollard, Julius Chestnut, and Mason Rudolph, they all had 89 yards combined for the Titans rushing game. Now, let me get over to the Buffalo Bills and let me get to their newcomer, Amari Cooper. Josh Allen had a great game. 21 of 33, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. The Buffalo rushing game, 74 yards rushing. But Amari Cooper, he fit right in with the Buffalo Bills offense. He had 4 receptions, 66 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, Keon Coleman has a counterpart. Dalton Kincaid has a counterpart. That's a three-headed monster right there. With those three guys, the Buffalo Bills, they can get to the playoffs now. And I believe that they will win the AFC East. Now, one thing about it, there's a lot of turmoil in the AFC East. You don't know what the New York Jets going to do. You don't know what the Miami Dolphins are going to do. You know what the New England Patriots are going to do, because I just said it a few minutes ago what the Patriots are going to do. So now, the Buffalo Bills, this is your division to win or lose. Go ahead and take this division, and they should be able to win this division by the time, I'm going to say, by the time Thanksgiving gets here. Because with the New York Jets, we don't know what we're going to see from the New York Jets, and we don't know what we're going to see from the Miami Dolphins. Tua is coming back. Congratulations, Tua is coming back. And congratulations that the Miami offense is going to have a little firepower when Tua comes back. The next game I want to talk about is the Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns. But before I get into that game, there's one thing I want to talk about. Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, I'm not going to talk about his play, because I looked at that injury during the game, and that is a catastrophic injury. That is the same leg that he has had injury problems throughout the past. But one thing I want to say is, to all of the Browns fans that was cheering for Deshaun Watson getting hurt and him being carted off the field, what the hell is wrong with y'all? What the hell is wrong with the Cleveland Browns fan base and everybody that was cheering and booing Deshaun Watson? He wanted to come to Cleveland. Now, I'm gonna say it hasn't fared well for him being in Cleveland, but like I said, his contract is fully guaranteed, so he doesn't have to take another snap for the Cleveland Browns, and he's still gonna get his money. And if I was Deshaun Watson, I wouldn't take another snap for the Cleveland Browns, because the fans are showing you that they don't appreciate you when you are on the field, but they appreciate you more when you off the field. And as far as the Cleveland Browns organization, when it comes to offensive line play, when it comes to the defense, now I don't have no problem with the defense, but I have a problem with the fans that paraded and saying that the offense is going to get better with Deshaun Watson being hurt. Do them fans have any type of damn soul, any type of compassion when they in they cell? When you see somebody get hurt, you should automatically start hoping and wishing that they get a speedy recovery. But in the Browns fans' case, they wanted this guy off the field. The Cleveland Browns fan base, I don't know what to say about y'all. I really don't. Because y'all are not showing compassion for y'all quarterback. Y'all really not. And y'all did not welcome Deshaun Watson with open arms when you were in desperate need of a quarterback 3 years ago. You really wasn't. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, hey, Deshaun Watson, go ahead and get your money. You playing with house money because your whole contract is guaranteed whether you play or not. If you want to play Deshaun Watson, by all means go ahead, but you just need to forget about the Cleveland Browns fan base because they obviously don't appreciate your play. And I'm not going to, if I was him, I wouldn't want to be in a market where the fans don't appreciate me. So, okay, back to the game. Deshaun Watson, 15 of 17, 128 yards, 0 touchdowns. Dorian Thompson-Robinson came into the fold after Deshaun Watson got hurt. 11 of 24, 82 yards, 0 touchdowns. Jameis Winston came into the fold, 5 of 11, 77 yards. No, 67 yards and 1 touchdown. So, the Cleveland Browns, when it comes, are they going to have a 2-quarterback system since Deshaun Watson is reportedly out for the rest of the season? I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's put quite a few plays of game tape on the film. Jameis Winston, we all know what type of quarterback he is. For the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, he had a decent game, 15 of 25, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The Cincinnati run game, 59 yards rushing. Gonna need more out of the rushing game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati receivers, T. Higgins, finally, first touchdown of the season. Jamar Chase, another touchdown for the season. This game is basically this game is where basically both teams are in the same boat. Both teams are in the same boat, but they going in opposite directions. You got the Cincinnati Bengals who have a quarterback that they believe in and that they appreciate, and then you have a rabid fan base in Cleveland where they don't appreciate anything. Since 1999, I'm going to run down a list. They have went through 35 quarterbacks, soon to be 36 and 37 quarterbacks. So, Cleveland, that's where careers go to die at. That is where that I've been saying that for years. People been telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you play for the Cleveland Browns, your career goes to die in Cleveland. You are not going to be able to expand yourself, expand your horizons in the city of Cleveland. So anybody that wants to propel themselves and promote themselves on and off the field, they need to get the hell out of Cleveland right now. And that's exactly how I feel about all you ungrateful, uncompassionate Cleveland Browns fans when it comes to Deshaun Watson. And that's all I got for the Cleveland Browns game and the Cincinnati Bengals game. The next game I want to talk about is the Houston Texans and the Green Bay Packers. CJ Stroud, he had a bad game. I'm going to just say it. 10 of 21, 86 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But everybody's asking, where did these points come from? I'm going to tell you where the points came from. The 22 points came from Joe. The 22 points came from a collective of players. Joe Mixon had 2 touchdowns. Also, one thing, they had field goals. They kicked 3 field goals. So that's where those points came from. 14 points, Joe Mixon. Then 9 points came from their field goal kicker. Green Bay Packers, this was the type of game that I was expecting. Houston Texans have never won versus the Packers ever in their history. Now, Houston Texans, their franchise is only 22 years old. So they've never beat Green Bay ever in their history, and they still haven't. Green Bay 5-2. Jordan Love has come back from he's come back from his injury after 3 games. Green Bay Packers, they are starting to make some noise. And I'm gonna say this: the whole NFC North is making noise. Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit, they are making noise. Can a whole division make it to the playoffs? I've never seen that happen in the history of the NFL. But there is a first time for everything, America. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of these teams in the NFC North qualify for the playoffs. So, and now back to the game. The Texans and Packers. Third down efficiency, they were about the same. 4 of 13 the Texans were on third down. The Green Bay Packers were 4 of 10 on third down. So this game, both of these teams, like I've been saying, are both in the same boat. They have young quarterbacks. One, CJ Stroud, is in his second year. Jordan Love, he is in his 4th year. He had 3 years. No, excuse me. Jordan Love is in his 5th year. He had 3 years to learn the quarterback system, development from Aaron Rodgers. Last year, he was the starting quarterback in the fold. And this year, he has just improved upon what he did last year. So I can see the Packers making a whole lot of noise. And I can see the Packers going deep into the playoffs. The next game I want to talk about is the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts. Now, one thing about this game, it lacked offensive firepower, which I wasn't surprised. For the Miami Dolphins, quarterback Tyler Huntley, 7 of 13, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Tim Boyle, 8 of 13, 74 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The Dolphins offense is the worst offense in the NFL. They can barely score 10 points. The rushing game, they had 188 yards. Nothing. The Miami Dolphins can't do nothing. They are on the verge of being eliminated from the playoffs before Halloween comes, before Thanksgiving comes, and before Christmas comes. If the Dolphins lose 3 more games, they are out of the playoff chase in the NFL. Because that's what I see. Dolphins, they are not able to generate offense. I'm going to give y'all some stats, and y'all are going to see where I'm coming from and why I'm talking about the Dolphins like this. Okay, as far as total points, the Dolphins, 32nd in the NFL. As far as total yards in the NFL, the Dolphins, 32nd in the NFL. As far as third down efficiency, success rate in the NFL, the Dolphins, 32nd in the NFL. As far as fourth down offense concerned, the Dolphins, 32nd in the NFL. So they up and down the board, the Dolphins are the worst offense in the NFL. So the Dolphins, they can chop this up as a lost season. They should. As far as the Colts, you are 4-3. You are still able to mend this ship, have Joe Flacco at the starting quarterback position. I found out that Anthony Richardson started this game, so it's good to see him back in the fold. He was 10 of 24, 129 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Also, the running game for the Colts, 155 yards and a touchdown here and 3 field goals there. So The Colts, they didn't have their best offensive game, but you don't need your best offensive game when you're playing against the worst offense in the NFL in the Miami Dolphins. The next game I want to talk about is the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings. Detroit, top team in the NFL, top team in their division. We all know who the top team in the NFL is. Detroit. The Lions, this was a game where this was their type of game. A good run-em-up game. They started off cold in the first quarter, came back and rallied, had a fierce rally, and won the game just before time expired in the fourth quarter. Now, the Minnesota Vikings, they are not on the same level as the Detroit Lions. I'm going to say that again. The Minnesota Vikings are not on the same level as the Detroit Lions. So, all you Minnesota Vikings fans out there, you going to get swept. The Detroit Lions are going to sweep you. You play them in week 14, the Detroit Lions going to win that game. You going to get swept by the Detroit Lions. So, Jared Goff had another efficient game. 22 of 25, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Jahmyr Gibbs, Demo, David Montgomery, they had good games. And also the wide receivers for the Detroit Lions, preferably Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had a good game. He had 8 receptions, over 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Minnesota Vikings, on the other hand, their defense played against suspect competition the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, when you play a team that know you very well and know your weaknesses and strengths, you're not able to beat them. So, what I saw from the Detroit Lions Minnesota Vikings game, Detroit is in a different class when it comes to that division. Detroit is going to win that division. The Vikings may have a wild card berth. The Chicago Bears may have a wild card berth. The Green Bay Packers may have a wild card berth. That's if everything falls into place. But guarantee that all 4 teams will make it to the playoffs, that's slim to none. It really is. That's slim to none. So that's all I have for the Lions-Vikings game. The next game I want to talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. New York Giants, you are a dumpster fire. The Giants owner, John Mara, I don't know what you need to do, but I just have to say it. Daniel Jones is not the guy for the Giants. Where they messed up was 3 years ago, giving him this $120 million contract with $60 million guaranteed. And in the first 2 years, $40 million of the dollars are guaranteed. That is where the New York Giants messed up at. And another thing they messed up on is letting Saquon Barkley walk in free agency and then having him really take over the game against the Giants. Saquon Barkley almost had 200 yards. He really could have had 200 yards if he wanted to. He had 176 yards, 1 touchdown, and that was a very efficient game. Jalen Hurts, he had a decent game, 10 of 14, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, and 0 interceptions. Now, as far as the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, the offense needs to expand their playbook because Jalen Hurts, he's the type of quarterback that can wheel a team on his back. But obviously, when you have a good running game with Saquon Barkley and Kenneth Gainwell, you don't have to do as much like you did the last couple of years. So this is a good win for the Eagles. This was really a blowout in its entirety. The Giants really didn't have no chance of winning this game, and they really don't have no chance winning another game this season. And I don't see them, with the exception of a team that is worse than them, the Carolina Panthers, winning a game this season. So that's all I got for the Eagles and Giants game. The next game I want to talk about is the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, this game was going to be a close game throughout, and I said it. Matthew Stafford, 14 of 23, 154 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. When it comes to the Raiders, Gardner Minshew, 15 of 34, 154 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which proved costly. Aiden O'Connell, 6 of 10, 52 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, the Raiders, we knew coming into this year it was going to be tough for them. I didn't expect them to go very far. I didn't expect them to even. I only expected the Raiders to get 5 or 6 games. Now I'm not even sure they can get that. The Rams, when it comes to their wide receiver core, most of their guys are out. The defense hasn't been the same since Aaron Donald retired. And the Rams, they are a wild card team at best. So that's all I got for this particular game. The next game I want to talk about is another blowout that happened on our hands. The Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers, y'all already know how I feel about them. There's no need in talking about them. Andy Dalton, 11 of 16, 93 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Bryce Young, 2 of 2, -4 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The Carolina Panthers are a dumpster fire. They don't show any type of enthusiasm. The head coach doesn't show any type of enthusiasm, and the players do not have a belief. And the only thing the players want is their paycheck at the end of the day. Now, the Washington Commanders, best start since 2008, when you started off 5-1. The Commanders, they are one of those teams that are going to make the playoffs no matter what. Because the offense, when it comes to Jaden Daniels, it's hard to stop him. Because this guy can beat you with his arm and he can beat you with his legs on a consistent basis. The rushing game for the Washington Commanders had over 200 yards. I said before this game started, this game was going to be over by halftime, and that's exactly how it was. Washington Commanders was leading 27-0 at halftime, and I was saying to myself, I'm like, are the Washington Commanders this good, or is the Carolina Panthers this bad? We know the Carolina Panthers are this bad, but we didn't see the Washington Commanders do what they needed to do against a team like the Panthers. We saw, not credit, they could have won versus the Baltimore Ravens. That was a tough test for them, and they passed it. Even though they lost, they still let the not the Buffalo Bills, but the Baltimore Ravens know that we can hang on your level. We can compete on your level. And that's exactly what the Washington Commanders did. The Washington Commanders, they are a team, and they are a force to be reckoned with. Now, the next game I want to talk about is the best team in the NFL, in the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs are 6-0. First time of them being 6-0 since 2014 when they started off 9-0, led by Alex Smith. Now they are led by Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, he had an okay game. 16 of 27, 154 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now, we usually don't see that from Patrick Mahomes, but the defense has been carrying this team, and the Chiefs have one of the best defenses in all of the NFL. Also, they was playing against a team in the 49ers that had a good that's also have a top 5 defense. It didn't look like that. They have a lot of injuries on the offensive side and the defensive side. So, one thing I can see from the Kansas City Chiefs, they need another wide receiver. They need a wide receiver that they can promote them off of the practice squad and put them in a starting role. But I got to give it to Andy Reid. Andy Reid, he is an offensive genius. He is able to take no-name players and make them have a big name. That is exactly what he did in Philadelphia, and that's exactly what he's doing in Kansas City. Now, as far as the 49ers, they are at a crossroads. Their wide receiver core took a hit yesterday with Brandon Ayuk being out for the rest of the season. Deebo Samuel, he is not 100%. Ricky Pearsall, he is just coming back into the fold. And I don't know how many plays. I don't know if he is on a reduced number of plays. But Ricky Pearsall, as of now, he is the bell cow for the wide receiver core for the 49ers. So it's tough times for the 49ers right now. This is the first time that they have been under 500 in 8 years. Excuse me, not 8 years, but in 5 years. This is the very first time that they have been 500 in 5 years. They are 3-4 now. What can the 49ers do? Is this season lost? It remains to be seen. 3-4, and you have a tough stretch of games coming up. Also, not to mention, the 49ers, they have a team. The next team they play is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we all know that the Dallas Cowboys have problems, but the 49ers have problems too. And it's not going to be a blow. This game between the 49ers and Cowboys, it's not going to be a blowout like it has been the last couple of years. So, congratulations to the Chiefs. 6-0. First time ever a Super Bowl a back-to-back Super Bowl champion has started out 6-0 in the third season for the first time ever in NFL history. That is a feat that will never be most likely will never be accomplished again. So, congratulations to the Chiefs. The next game I want to talk about is the New York Jets and Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson, the man of the hour Sunday night. 16 of 29, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And everybody was asking, what in the world is Mike Tomlin doing taking Justin Fields out of the fold? I commend Mike Tomlin for putting Russell Wilson in the fold. Early in the season, Justin Fields did what he had to do. He won them games off of field goal kicking and having a very efficient offensive line. But as of right now, it's time to put Russell Wilson into the fold. And Mike Tomlin put Russell Wilson into the fold at the right time. He did. Aaron Rodgers, 24 of 39, 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. They just got Devontae Adams. I knew that they wasn't going to have him as the bell cow in this game when it comes to wide receiving. This game, basically, one thing that was bad in this game for the Jets was third down. They were 3 of 10 on third down. The Steelers, they were 5 of 14 on third down. And as far as the Steelers, they were averaging 6 yards every play. So they wasn't in too many third down situations. They really wasn't. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've gotten their groove back. They've won They've won their last 2 games. Now they are on a winning streak. Let's see what the Pittsburgh Steelers can do coming down into the season later on when we get deep into late December and early January. Let's see what they can do. The next 2 games I want to talk about, and then I'm going to end the show. I want to commend everybody who came in, who have watched the show, who watches it so ever faithfully. And the last 2 games I'm going to talk about is the Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Los Angeles Chargers, and Arizona Cardinals before I get out of here. Now, this game, Lamar Jackson had an efficient game, 17 of 22, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He played a perfect game. Baker Mayfield, 31 of 45, 370 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I said before this game, I'm like, Baker Mayfield is going to throw 2 interceptions. And that is exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. Because in a pressure-packed game like this, Baker Mayfield has been prone to throw interceptions. The Baltimore rushing game, that's where the Ravens won this game. You got a top-notch defense in the Buccaneers that prides themselves on stopping the run, but they allowed over 200 yards rushing last night. 200 yards rushing, 500 yards of total offense from the Ravens, and only 425 yards from the Buccaneers. Now, this game was basically a blowout because it was 34-7 at one point in this game. Now, when it comes to the Buccaneers, what do we see? We see a NFC South division that is pretty much one of the worst divisions in football. You got the Buccaneers who lost. You got the Panthers who lost. You got the New Orleans Saints who lost. And you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the Atlanta Falcons who lost. The whole division lost Sunday. So, one of the worst divisions in football. It really is. So, congratulations to the Ravens on getting their 5th win of the season. 5 straight wins ever since they lost to the Raiders early in the season. The last game I want to talk about is the LA Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I picked the Chargers to win this game. Justin Herbert threw the ball all over the field for the second time this season. 27 of 39, 340 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, one thing the Chargers did, they didn't put the ball in the end zone. They did, and that is what lost them the game. What lost the Chargers the game, they kicked 6 field goals. They kicked 6 field goals, and the Cardinals, they scored 2 touchdowns, and they kicked a field goal. So that is what lost them the game. Now, Kyler Murray, he had a good game, 14 of 26, 145 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The running game for the Chargers, 59 yards, non-existent. The running game for the Arizona Cardinals, 181 yards, very much existent. And their bell cow wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., he had so much attention on him. He only had 21 yards receiving, but James Conner, Trey McBride had 51 yards. So a combined total. They also had a few more other receivers that had some yards. And so all of them had a combined total of 145 yards in this game. Now, this was a typical defensive game. It really was. Because they didn't have both of these teams, the Cardinals, they do have a dynamic wide receiver, but both of these teams, they don't rely on explosive plays. They rely on it being a ugly, drag out, run amok game and keeping the game close and then winning it in the fourth quarter. That's what both of these teams' blueprints are. And so with that, those are my reactions to week 7 of the NFL season in 2024. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and other content. Also, follow Key City Sports on TikTok. And remember, one last thing, the key is always on time.